Can you share a time God asked you to do something that felt completely crazy or impossible, but you did it anyway?
At the end of your life, if you can count those solid friendships, solid relationships that you've had, you've lived a successful life.
The life expectancy was 18 to 24 months. And so it's like, well, that's not very long.
And all those people and those relationships that you're worried about, it's not your job to take care of them, it's mine.
These stories are for you to have light shown into your dark places, to know that you're not alone, even in that darkness.
We agreed on a vision. We agreed on a mission. We agreed on our purpose. And we're going to do that every single day.
Almost 30 years later, and just retired, that was certainly a time where I felt like God pushing me in a direction, and I knew I kind of jump out, leave the lifeboat and see if I could swim in another way.
Just living in that space of like, no, if you chose me for this, then I'm going to do it. I'm going to go all in.
If I want to find the negative, it's there. If I want to find the positive, it's there. It's just what we focus on. Welcome back to another episode of Crazy Unbelievable Faith. I am your co-host, Brian Owen, alongside my wife, Kersha.
Hi.
And we have some amazing guests on the podcast today. And for those of you in the community that are not part of the community, please follow, subscribe. If something stands out in this that means something to you, please share it with people. Our biggest thing, and both these guys that are on the podcast with us today, it's just giving that hope and encouragement to those around us. And so Nathan and Jim, thank you both for taking the time to jump on to our Crazy Unbelievable Faith podcast. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, I want to kind of open up with a very broad question, and see, she had me take my glasses off, so now I probably ought to read this question, but I'll just I can't do it. I'll just let her read the question.
Can you share a time God asked you to do something that felt completely crazy or impossible, but you did it anyway? Then what happened afterward?
So I don't know who wants to take that first.
I'll jump in. Okay. No, so I had the opportunity to open my own CPA practice with my sister shortly after being out of college, coming back to our hometown. I'd worked for a couple of bigger firms and eventually got the opportunity to do some assistant coaching. And my mother was an English teacher at the high school and ultimately an administrator. And so I kind of had a little bit of the bug, but coaching certainly was an interest to me. But leaving the CPA profession and the things that come with that, to go back to be a classroom teacher and a coach was a bit of a challenge with 3 kids. But I just kept feeling that tug. And so here we are almost 30 years later, just retired. And that was certainly a time where I felt like God pushing me in a direction, and I knew I kind of jump out and leave the lifeboat and see if I could swim in another way.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Nathan?
I think for me, it's been pretty recent. I mean, there's been times where I've taken steps in faith. I've always felt like I've been pretty obedient. At the same time, like, I don't know that I've been asked to do something that like stretched me a ton where it made sense. I was a teacher and moved to a principal assistant superintendent, and that was within my hometown. I had planned really to kind of retire. There were so many times in my life where like my plans are to do this and then God has something else. But I was also knowing that like I have this plan, but in case something happens, I'm always going to be ready. And so moving from my hometown to the district actually where Dr. Cummins had gone to be a leader, that was one of those times where like I didn't want to leave. I didn't think it didn't make a lot of sense. I had relationships and people that I cared about, but there kept being this tug. And I remember staying home one day with one of my kids who were sick, and I rarely would stay home, and just praying through that day and that time. And if something hit me as pretty clear as I was praying about all the reasons why I couldn't, and it was, I've always taken care of you. I always take care of your family. I need you here right now. And all those people and those relationships that you're worried about, it's not your job to take care of them, it's mine. And so it's time to move. And then more recently, I've been in education for 21 years. I am not retired. And the past year has had some different challenges, personal and professional. But I think God for me knows that I don't just need a push sometimes. I might need a jackhammer or off the cliff or something like that. And so I have, after 21 years, we've had a great deal of success with some different things, built some great relationships, of this opportunity to kind of go out there and start our own consulting, but more than anything, just try to help others be successful, lead with joy, lead with purpose, and give other people that same joy and purpose as well. So that's been the big one lately. That's when the one that like, oh, that one's out of my comfort zone. The other ones were like, yeah, yes, okay. But this one was like, this is different.
Well,
God,
I will tell you, I'm right there with you, because God had to shut the whole world down for me to be able to see that what he was calling me to do was, I was capable and able to do that. He had called me to homeschool. And so I did part day homeschool, where I
Uh-huh.
kept the kids in the I kept the kids in the morning, and then they went at like 10. And so then when COVID happened, it was like, bam, here you go. You can do this. I have given you and equipped you with what I want you to do. So at least you just need a jackhammer. I needed the whole shutdown to be able to see that I could be obedient.
and some of us need a stick of dynamite, and my hand is up. Like, I have to have dynamite to kind of move me sometimes. So, yeah, it's, the analogy you always hear, like, oh, the rubber band stretching. It's this beautiful, like, oh, you'll be great. No, it's like mine had to snap, be blown up in order to move me from point A to point B. Because I think everyone's like, we're guilty. We're creatures of habit.
Mhm.
I think at the end of the day, everyone, and Dr. Cummins, Jim, excuse me, as you were saying, like, Jim, to your point, like, I want to go back to that comment about leaving the CPA profession to then get into education, because there is a monetary change in that.
Absolutely.
The provisions. How, kind of walk us through a little bit of that mindset. Like, how did you, I mean, you had a family, like, how, walk us through some of that thinking around that aspect of that profession change.
Yeah, well, there were multiple parts to it. One of them was how it making a difference. I mean, in the CPA profession, I worked with clients, and in a smaller town, smaller practice, you have some great relationships. You work with a lot of people, but it's different. I mean, you see them once a year, a lot of your tax clients. So how are you going to make a difference in that? I knew a lot of people in the profession that stayed in the CPA, the public side. High divorce rates, high suicide rates. And so the options then become, do you want to stay in that and buck that trend, or do you want to look to private accounting and try to climb the ladder? I have lots of friends that became CEOs of companies and presidents of companies, and there would have been certainly some monetary difference than coming up through the ranks of public education. But the other part is 3 daughters. I knew that there was going to be time I wanted home. And my wife will tell you that coaching took away a lot of that time at home. And it was tough on her when I was coaching and when I just moved over. But I wouldn't go back and do it differently. I'd still make that decision to move over, go through the sacrifice. And again, like Nathan said, I mean, there are just times where you say, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to rely on you. I'm going to help, suspect that you're going to make the ends meet when they need to. And they always, and then probably accelerated my actual move into administration. I probably would have coached a little longer, but there was certainly some attraction on the financial side to move in.
Yeah. Well, I think, you both have hit the nail on the head with the word relationship. And I have been very blessed and fortunate in my profession, obviously, to work on the professional side with both of you, and now on the personal side. I mean, it's really neat and seeing the men that you are in the public sector of your job, and getting this opportunity to kind of behind the veil to a degree, like the few minutes that we've had to visit, like I can just, you are who you are. And there's not this facade, because I know, Jim, you mentioned like the high divorce rate, the suicide rate. That's not just in the CPA realm. I mean, it just seems to be like the public sector has those challenges that come along. And if you don't build those solid relationships with people, that there's that saying that at the end of your life, if you can count on one hand those solid friendships, solid relationships that you've lived a successful life. And everyone's like, oh, come on, I've got 1,000 followers. I got whatever. It's like, okay, well, tell them you lost your job and you need help, and see how many of them really help you.
Yeah.
Or I need to move tomorrow, and which one of those are in. And I think it just hit us differently. And that's where, surrounding ourselves with people like yourselves, with others in our community, like, it's just, relationships are key. I definitely think that's true. And I think, Nathan, you mentioned sitting and praying, kind of which direction to go. I'm going to flip this next question to you guys. Is there a scripture or a verse or a principle or a value that you kind of follow in your professional life, your private life, like being a father, a husband, and a business owner, or just in the community? There's something that stands out to either of you.
You want to go first on this one?
He was
Sure.
hoping that you would.
Yeah. So it really tags a little bit on the personal to what Kersha had said, is that he's qualified us. And, everybody that Jesus called, there was this moment when he called them, go away from me because I'm not worthy. I'm this. And we can find reasons to qualify us all the time, but Jesus never picked that person who seemed qualified, who seemed all those other things. So kind of like just living in that space of like, no, if you chose me for this, then I'm going to do it. I'm going to go all in. That means you've qualified me. That means even if I was uncomfortable at first, there's something you've done to prepare me. There's also, when he asked Peter and Andrew to follow him to make them fishers of men, he told them to leave their boats behind. And that one's really, I heard that story 100 times, but the piece that's really stuck out lately is leave your boats behind, leave everything behind and follow me, and living by that. Professionally, when I work, I mean, as a leader, the example that Jesus gave about the Last Supper, where he was washing the feet and being a servant and understanding what a servant leader is. Servant leader, we're going to do something for somebody, which is part of it, but it's really like serving them a way so we can all reach our goals. And so really being deep in that. Now, this one isn't in the Bible verse for it. Teaching people to fish versus giving them fish, and understanding that's the ultimate goal. Is like, we think of servant leadership, the best thing we can do when we coach, when we can do everything else, is how can we get them to do this on their own, be like them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Hope that wasn't yours, Jim.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I grew up, I worked with my dad a ton. My dad was a mechanic, one of the brightest mechanical minds. How do I make things better? Type of people I've ever been around. And I always grew up with this little bit of a confusion, because he had such a tremendous moral ethic code. Hard work, do the right thing. The customer's paying for you to be here. You show up on time. You just all of that. You serve your mother, and you serve the community. But he wasn't a Christian, and he did not become a Christian until right before his 80th birthday, a couple of years ago. So Mom had prayed for him for 60 years, and And I grew up with a little bit of that. I don't understand what the gap is, because there's not a better model for how a young person should be, and how a father should be. And so, I always just kind of took that model of, respect for others. And I love the verse. What is it? Quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to anger. Just Dad was a quiet person. He didn't talk a lot, just absorbed it. But he knew what was going on. And then I, posed that to Mom, who was an educator. School is important. Be active, do those things. So I really got just a blessing of combination of what it was like. And so that was really kind of what drove me through my career, is just those type of things. And growing up somewhat, we went to church, did those things. But it was later, as I started to mature, that I really started to dig in and spend some daily time. And then after my diagnosis almost 9 years ago, that's when things just got to a much deeper level. You get to a point where it's just complete reliance, even to the point during the day, daily activities. It's just more of a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's certainly been an evolution of depth of faith, connection, I guess, for lack.
Jim, when you were talking, I had the image and the example come to mind of when Simon Peter had to walk on water, and how the water beneath him was rocky, just like you were just explaining in your story, that the water is rocky. But Jesus still called him and led him through that rockiness to him. And as soon as he took his eyes off of Jesus, he fell into the water. And in that story, that of your example, it allows us to see that as long as we keep our eyes fixed on Jesus, he will lead us through those rocky times and to firmer land, out, essentially out of the water and onto solid ground.
Yeah, there's a lot of truth. And you talking about your dad, again, 80s, so he's part of the baby boomers generation. And that generation, I think, what's Gen X is next after boomers?
Boomers are 60s, babe.
60. Well, whatever I don't remember how the phases of them anyway, but it's like
I just love how he's going with it.
It's fine. It's just, whatever. We want to be
step down a generation to my mom.
We want to be real and authentic. This is the real world. Okay. This is how my brain is. All right. But
I love it.
But those values from your dad that were instilled, I think of it's the golden rule, and it's genuinely thinking about, your word is your bond. If you say you're going to do something, you do it and you follow. Like you were saying, the customer's paying you to do this. Like you show up and you do what you're supposed to do. I think somewhere along the way that's gotten lost, unfortunately, and we're starting to see more and more of that come back from younger generations. But I think taking that time to pray, to get in the Word, I want to go back to, you were talking about when you were diagnosed and your health kind of went south for a while.
Yes.
Talk us through. You're a leader. Were you superintendent of the district at the time?
I was superintendent at Seneca.
Oh, okay. So superintendent of a district. But you're leading. You're steering the ship in that sense. How did that work, or how did that play out? Because that's a very private matter. When you're diagnosed with something, where did you find the strength and/or the balance of, sharing that with others to gain strength from numbers, or I got to keep this private. I just want to take care of it on my own. Like, where did that come into play? Like, what moved you through that?
And that's a great question. And I'm not sure I have an exact answer. Nathan witnessed me through that time, but I think, I grew up, well, I am still a very private person, socialize a lot. I'm comfortable with just hanging out. So it was different. Our church group was just tremendously supportive. I was on I can't remember. I think I was still a deacon. I don't think I'd become an elder at the church yet, but very active. And so they all knew and embraced it. And one of the things I started doing is I just started doing a little blog, kind of honoring my grandfather who died when I was in high school of pancreatic cancer. We were very close. So I kind of named it after him, and it was my way of just keeping the people that had interest and were closest to me, keeping them posted on the journey without having to text everybody who I told, who I haven't. But also a way to honor and glorify the fact that it does. I mean, yes, this is not good. The original, if you Googled it, which I made the mistake of doing it, the life expectancy was 18 to 24 months. And so it's like, well, that's not very long. Perspective changes quickly, but this was my way of just continuing to honor the fact that we're going to walk this journey together. And if it's 18 months or 18 years, I know where I'm going, comfortable. And so there was some sharing, I guess, and some private parts, but I never shied away from sharing or just letting it be known. And my daughter has told me that my son-in-law came to the faith because he saw the way I am back. So there's a
Yeah. That's it's hard when it's such a tough situation to see that, but such a blessing to know that the way God led you through that is also had an impact and led others to the faith.
Mhm.
And not very many people get to witness that their journey led people into becoming a believer. So that's a huge blessing for you, and a testament to your character and just who you are at the core of you, to know that your son-in-law now is a believer because you had great, crazy, unbelievable faith in your journey of leukemia, no pun intended, but that's important.
Nathan, from your perspective, you were working in the district and who was going through that. What did you see from your vantage point?
Oh, when I think of Jim Cummins overall and the honor I've had to work for him, work alongside him, he would say, there's always this steadiness that never changed. You knew there was days he was tired, but just sitting here recalling, like, I don't remember him ever coming in and like, oh man, he's having a bad day. He's this, because there's, like you say, this steadiness. And, you think about, like, I remember the blog, I'd kind of forgotten about it till he mentioned it. And I remember being able to read it and kind of, be overjoyed that, like, I had the inside track on being able to see Jim's heart more than most. And so for him to be able to share that with others, I am so honored that because of our time together, I'm a better father, I'm a better husband, I'm a better son because of the example. And so it's cool to hear about his son-in-law and then to know the effect that it had on me. But then, the because of the steadiness, because of his his faith and the example that he provides every day, the amount of other people that it has an impact on as well.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, and I mean, you didn't know this was going to be like a, kudos to Jim type of podcast today, did you? Like, this is a surprise, right? Like, no,
Nathan's done sometimes.
I think it's amazing though, the awareness aspect of it. Like, you may or may not have noticed it, and you probably didn't, because if you're being steady, as Nathan said, and you're just walking out your faith, you're walking out your daily life. Most people, it's just normal to them. How did you do that? I mean, Kersha, I get asked that all the time. How do you guys manage 5 kids and all these different plates that are spinning? It's just, my motto is we just kind of figure it out. And she laughs because she's like, oh, that means I'm going to figure it out and you're going to just follow. I'm like, yeah, pretty much. That's, she was the military, so I just get to follow orders from her in some degree, which is fine.
Okay, he makes me sound like I'm a sergeant, but
Make sure I pay her later.
I'm going to answer that before he does, so he doesn't take it. But one thing I say too, the type of and if it becomes a kudos to Jim episode, then that's fine, even if it makes him uncomfortable. But one of the things about it, and it's Jim's leadership, but it's also, I mean, the same thing. As a leader, I wanted to be a servant leader like Christ. Jim was the same way, knowing that he wasn't there for maybe a week at a time or a day at a time. It didn't affect anyone else too, because we were so steady on, here's the vision, here are the goals. And the other piece is, when Jim does come back, like, I don't ever want to disappoint Jim. I mean, and I know there's no pressure, like I don't have to be perfect, but I'm going to come to work every day and I'm going to do my job because we agreed on a vision. We agreed on a mission. We agreed on our purpose. And we're going to do that every single day. And then when he comes back to know that, hey, we were good and faithful servants, and we did that. And so you will take this while you're going through that. It's going to be fine. And he would extend that same empathy to us, or same compassion even to us. If there was something going on in our life, like, no, we'll pick up the slack. You go do that.
Yeah.
So sorry if I stole your thunder, but I would jump in first that time.
No, giving grace, expecting grace,
I was
giving
just
grace.
going to say grace. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that is key, as everyone walks through life, because we don't know what people are going through on the other end. You walk into work, just like you were saying, Dr. Cummins would come in like just, steady Eddie, but you didn't know what was going on behind the scenes. And I'm thinking of our viewers, our listeners. Like, there are people, just this short message that's come out today, there are viewers that are probably thinking, gosh, again, awareness to things, maybe reading a blog post about another colleague. Like, it's just that simple reaching out, or just saying, how are you? Or a smile as you walk into an office. You don't know what that does to someone else, the ripple effect of that. Right. Sorry, you were going to say something.
No, you're fine.
Oh.
What I was going to say is the dynamic that the two of you have is the ideal dynamic that everybody longs to have in a workplace environment. And leaders like you, Jim, make it easier to go through life trials than leaders who are in a leadership position because they're a positional leader rather than sitting in that leadership role. And so that is really important, I think, for people also within the community to walk away from and asking, am I a positional leader, or am I a leader because I've earned that position and I lead with grace from the front and I lead from the front? In today's society, there are so many people that there's a set of rules here that don't apply to me because I am who I am in the position that I'm in. And I just think that that's really important for our viewers and also for you guys to know and understand that being a leader, it means putting others before you and before whatever you're going through. And when you lead like that, it's easier for others when you're going through the hard time, for others to step up and take some burden off of your shoulders. And so, Nathan, I don't want to obviously not give kudos to you. I think this is a kudos to Jim and Nathan. Good for you for being able to step up and help him in the ways of showing up every day, just showing up every day, and you being steady Eddie and not wavering because of things happening maybe in your personal life as well, or just we have young kids and we're tired, whatever that looks like. So good for you too in stepping up into that leadership role and helping to fill that void.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One final thought for both of you. Again, Kersha, kind of, I'll piggyback off what she shared. You had a great work environment. It's kind of that's the picturesque, the dream. Hey, I've got a leader who isn't just, they were put there, they earned that. Is there a word, is there an encouraging thought for someone maybe listening or watching? Maybe they don't have that. What would you say to them if they don't have that type of environment they walk into every day? What would you leave them with, whether it's a word or a scripture or I'm just curious if you guys have something that comes to mind.
Well, I mean, I think the one thing, and it's hanging right here on my wall, anxious about nothing, but in everything, seek the Lord, um, and find that peace, basically. I want to brag on Nick when he had the opportunity. I told him all the time, you can go be a superintendent whenever you want to be. But the situation that he has gone through over the last year, not only with the shenanigans at the school district, but with Jen's situation, you talk about somebody somebody can watch and grow from. Ton of that, right? And one of those no excuses kind of guys. I mean, I grew up in that environment. Don't make excuses. I don't think God expects us to make excuses for when we fall short. He expects us to seek Him and be better. Nathan has not made excuses. He's just pounded the faith, stepped out, and there for Jen. Boys, that's what a testimony that he's got. How powerful it's been for me to just watch that faith in action. Because it will be hard for somebody to understand unless you watch it happen, what he's gone through.
No excuses, Nathan.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. It's funny because the kind of motto the boys and I have, they're all wrestlers, and it's find a way or find an excuse. So whether it's practice, whether it's so that I like that. It's good. For me, that piece, I think Romans 8:28, we know that in all things, God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose. Just that understanding that, like, there's the testings before the blessing, and there's no test without the testimony. So you can witness regardless, and still find a way to be grateful, find a way to praise. We're called to walk in the light and be in the light. When we walk in that, not to do it with shame, not to do it with our head low, but to continue to walk, and so we can reflect that light.
Yep.
Love that. I love that.
That's huge.
Well, and I definitely, finding a way, finding an excuse. A lot of people can do that, and a lot of people will. Again, it's like if I want to find the negative, it's there. If I want to find the positive, it's there. It's just what we focus on. And I heard a quote the other day about, the grass isn't always greener on the other side. People will see that, and it's like, because there's just a lot of crap underneath that grass to make it look really nice. And it's like, there's a lot of truth in that. People are like, oh, the grass is green. It's like, it made me laugh, because there are people like, oh, I have to get out of here. Well, you make it what it is. And there are situations that are not easy. And I know Jim, you know that firsthand for sure. And Nathan, you do as well. But it is, you try to make the best of it. And like you said, Nathan, be that light for those around us. And I think that's key for us, using this podcast as a way to bring hope to people, to bring encouragement. If it just, we've had a few responses from people, and it's like, at the end of the day, if that's all we got out of this, like, we feel like we've done, we've encouraged and we've brought people to know the Lord just because they've had the exposure to this.
Yeah.
And so I thank both of you for coming on. Nathan, I know Jim was alluding to this. There's gonna have to be another episode where you're on here, because there's a story to what you have with Jen on this, and we definitely are excited to be able to share that down the road. But again, thank you both for coming on. Anything in closing that you would want our viewers or listeners to think about or know?
Earlier on, you were kind in talking about your relationships, and so kudos. I had met Brian when you were a sales rep for Pearson, and so the thing I would say is, like, since we were given kudos, the thing that made you different as well, because you get bombarded with salespeople all the time, is the understanding that the relationships were really the foundation of how you were going to sell things. And it wasn't just, hey, I have this product, you need it. It was, what are you about? And do we have a product to fit that need? And I really appreciated that as well. And so,
Well, thank you. Thank you.
I
for that.
appreciate that.
You don't know what was
relationship.
behind the scenes saying, hey, has that come in yet? Like, where are we at? I need commission money. Like, I dealt with it. No, I appreciate you. I appreciate you sharing that. No, we've been very blessed with both my professional and
Actually, it has been a joy to watch my husband emerge as a salesperson over the course of the last 18, 19 years. From the time we were dating, so he started with Pearson just as I deployed overseas. And so his first 3 months, his girlfriend was gone. And to watch him just evolve into the person that he's been, it's been a huge blessing from my perspective to see that and to watch that. And when you guys started your book call, I was like, Nathan Manley from the ocean? He's like, yeah, you remember? Because he just, every time he came home from conversations with you guys, it was just such an amazing, he came home fulfilled and refreshed. And I watched him start to have these pockets of relationships in
it's just
school
them.
district.
It was just them. It was just you guys.
That-
Tell them
that just fulfilled him. And I got to see that he wasn't just all about the sales. He was about the relationships. He was about the people behind the sale. And that people were also to see that he was a person behind that product too. And not just, okay, we've done our contract is done. I washed my hands. I'll see you in 3 years, which we did see other employees do. And we also kind of watched how that just kind of became, those relationships became water underneath a bridge, and there was nothing concrete holding them together. And so I do appreciate you sharing that, Nathan. That's a huge testament to, that's just who he is at the core of him. And at the core of me, I'm just taking care of our children and trying to make sure that everything comes into alignment the way that it's supposed to.
She works hard. She works harder than any of us on this call, guaranteed. So that's,
I will tell you this, that during that time frame, you guys were a breath of fresh air for Brian. During that time frame, we were really struggling with our daughter, Kenley. And so it was good to have light being shown into the darkness of our walk from a place outside of our walk. And so that was huge for us as well.
There are good people. There are great people out there that want to do better. And thank you for you being on today with us and sharing some of your time. I don't want her. She's gonna start crying, so I gotta keep her fanned.
No tears. I'm good.
Yeah.
I do just really appreciate your guys' openness and vulnerability.
Yeah.
And I want to just remind our community that these stories are for you. These stories are for you to have light shown into your dark places and to know that you're not alone, even in that darkness, because Jesus is right there with you.
Yeah.
But it's for the viewers as to why we're doing this. God called us to do this podcast, and so we just want to be obedient. And whether we ever see the fruit from that or not, we don't ever want to get to heaven and say, we wish we would have. So,
Well, Jim did the blog. I can't type that well and I can't spell that well. So we probably better stick with a podcast where it's verbal and people can see that. So that's good. But I want to thank Nathan, you and Jim. Thank you for coming on today. I know you guys have consulting you talked about earlier. For those that are watching or listening, those will be attached in the show notes for information of how do I get in touch with them if you have more questions about it, or you just want to learn more from them. We'll have their contact information linked in the show notes. So again, for those of our viewers and listeners, if something stood out to you, please forward it, share it with somebody if it was impactful to you. We just want that ripple effect in our community for sure. So again, thank you for tuning in to another episode of Crazy Unbelievable Faith. Nathan, Jim, thank you so much. You guys have a wonderful rest of the day.
bye.